Sit down and just let your brain write down everything that's pissing you off, everything that's going. Try to find the counterbalance. Why is that making me mad? Because I want to be doing this. You start identifying those things. That's part of the being curious and becoming aware of what's causing that emotion.
Welcome to the Lara Jane Layton Show. This podcast is for you, the person who keeps putting others first. Your self-talk has held you back. You no longer need to take a second seat. Let's explore ways to overcome self-doubt. You can silence that inner bully voice and achieve your full potential. Here's your host, Lara Jane.
Welcome, friend. I have a new best friend, Kristin, with us, and we are going to talk about growth mindset and that staying curious, how we keep that growth mindset, how we move forward. But what is a growth mindset? Why do I need one? It's just a buzzword out there, and I get really tired of buzzwords. What do I do? But Kristin's here to help us answer those questions. But before we dive in, we're going to get a quick quote from our sponsor, come back, and we'll learn about growth mindset. So we'll be right back.
This is Adam Adams, co-founder of Optimized LLC, where we take the guesswork out of your health. If you're feeling exhausted, struggling with weight, or just not feeling yourself anymore, your hormones might be the problem. And that's why we test, not guess. Analyzing your blood work to pinpoint exactly what's holding you back. At Optimized LLC, we help you rebalance your hormones, boost energy, and reclaim your life. Don't settle for normal. Aim for optimized. Just go to optimized.com to book your free introductory coaching call. It's a free call to help you take the first step toward feeling your best.
All right, Kristin, what is a growth mindset and how in the world can it help me? Like, why do I need one? I'm learning every day anyway.
Well, thank you, Laura. I'm excited to talk about this with you. I think kind of from a starting point of what is it in a definition kind of way, it's the desire for ongoing improvement and continual learning. And I think the big thing that you hear a lot, but it may be hard to put in practice, is to stay curious. How do you stay curious? How do you employ a growth mindset when you're at work or when you're out with friends or when you're even on a hike? I have been on a big growth mindset journey even these last few months as I'm making a bit of a transition in work. And so it's just really fun to be talking about with you today because it can be very impactful for you to find more fulfillment and excitement and joy out of life.
You know, I'm so tired and I got so much going on, and I don't know if I have time to learn more. And if I learn more, then do I have to do more because now they're going to want me to do more? What if I'm just too tired to keep growing?
That's a great place to start with asking yourself, why am I too tired? What's going on with me? Be curious and growth mindset about yourself, first and foremost. When you can pause and say, hey, it's okay to be tired. I'm really curious though, why am I so tired? What's going on that's draining my life? And if you can take that mindset into whatever it is that you're experiencing, you may identify, oh my gosh, I have said yes to 30 things and I have time for 20. Or, yes, I'm sleeping too much, too many snoozes, and just kind of being present with yourself and being able to acknowledge those different feelings and emotions and whatever's going on, but doing that with that, inner curiosity, that starting with that and being more self-aware and recognizing it in yourself gives you a totally different frame of mind to how you can then go out and explore that throughout your day to day. So you don't necessarily have to pick up a book and read more or, here you are listening to this podcast. It's a great start, but you don't have to cram more into your day per se.
I love your answer because it's exactly what I would want to do. It's like, if I feel like I don't have the time or I can't, getting curious of why those are the thoughts in my head. And like you said, I could just have put too many, I really don't need to do things on my plate. And I'm feeling because I said yes, I need to do them. But when do we take the time to say yes to ourselves? We so often put ourselves on the back burner. Oh, I got to go do this. I guess I'll give up my meditation tonight. Or I got to go do this. So I guess I won't do X. But when's the last time you actually said, I'm not going to work late today because of it? Like what is it that you're putting on the back burner when those things come up? So I loved that. Stay curious. What a great way to self examine. So talk to me a little bit more about how to be curious about my internal brain.
Sure. For me, and I think it's a little bit different for everybody, but I like to pause when I'm having that moment. And it took training just to even figure out I'm feeling something. What am I feeling? And pause. Okay, I'm feeling in my gut. That's where I kind of carry my stress. What is this stress coming from? It's not that this deadline is in 5 minutes. It's that I know that I could have done better to prepare for it because I made a bunch of choices. So how can I get through the 5 minutes if it's due in 5 minutes? But how can I promise myself that on my drive home today or sometime when you have that time anyway, I commit that I'm going to explore that a little more and say, how could I have handled that differently so that I was happier with that outcome instead of how I just keep feeling like I'm in this spiral that never ends of the same unhappiness or the same drain or the same exhaustion.
I went years in my career of turning off my emotions. It's like they did not serve me, they did not help me, they just slowed me down. How do I turn those back on and start being curious about it? So, I just had a meeting, someone just pissed me off. And instead of breathing through it, in the past, I would just, doesn't matter, just get through this meeting, right? So, what are those things that I could do to turn that back on, but not have the floodgates open?
It's a good that's a good question. I think one exercise is if you can take the time to sit down, because this would be hard to do while you're driving, as I had previously suggested, but sit down and just let your brain write down everything that's pissing you off, everything that's going, and then try to find the counterbalance to that of why is that making me mad? Because I want to be doing this. And kind of you start identifying those things. That's part of the being curious and becoming aware of what's causing that emotion. When you're in the moment and you're having that emotion, sometimes you do just need to breathe and get through it and say, this too shall pass. I'm having a moment, but I also need to get through this meeting. It doesn't nullify that you're having a moment, and you do need to get through the meeting. And then once you're through the meeting, if you can evaluate that situation and say, okay, I have a choice in these moments. How, and even if you're conscious enough to do it in the meeting, great. But I have a choice how I react and handle this. Am I going to just let it piss me off again? Or am I going to be curious and say, why did this make me angry? What can I do differently about it? And this is where that growth mindset, it really is just kind of, you have to ingrain it in yourself to constantly be asking why and staying curious. And the more you do that, the more you realize I control all of this negative self-talk. I control all of this negative energy around me, and energy it is so contagious, and it does pull and attract. So you get this negative energy going in a room, everybody's going to get like that. So then the meeting's not going to go well, in that situation you described.
Yeah. How many meetings have you seen derailed because somebody got upset and they're like, fold their arms and they kind of pout and they've just shut down? And that energy goes through the rest of the room.
Yes.
It's like, no, now nobody dares talk because one person got upset. But I really like how you said, take the pause, maybe put it in your notes, review what George did that triggered my response of being frustrated. And then when you get back to your desk or a time that you can analyze it, start asking the questions. What was it? What was that thing that was said or the reaction? Or maybe just saw them roll their eyes and maybe they were rolling them at somebody else, but I took it personally. So starting to just explore, what
Yeah.
was it? What was it that turned on my light switch? Like, I want it back off.
Yes.
I'm going to rewire it. I'm not taking that light switch to that room again.
Absolutely. And I've found when I do that, we all carry one piece of life into the next. So oftentimes you'll find it actually had nothing to do with what he just said in that meeting. It had everything to do with I had this fight with my kid on the way to school, and I feel like I'm failing as a parent because it's the stupidest thing that we should be fighting about. And I'm so my energy is so caught up in that I wasn't actually listening fully in this meeting, and I was only hearing part of what they were saying. So, we just kind of had this negative energy pull. Um, and, it just as easily that person could be having that day. So if you're coming in with that open mind to what could be causing this, and if you can take that pause in the meeting and say, are you okay? You seem off today. Or is there something going on? Is this the best time to talk about it? Or should we reconvene later? What a gracious gift you can give somebody else if you can be aware enough that's happening and be a great teammate, whether it's, somebody on your team, below you, above you, same level, doesn't matter. What a great gift to give your teammates. And then in return, you're teaching or you're demonstrating something that you would appreciate them doing to you. And maybe they can reciprocate that when you're having that bad day.
I like that approach a lot. I also want to make sure that when we do open the gate, that we make whatever is said safe. If you ask what's going on, or you ask, hey, I look like I could have frustrated you today. What was it that happened so I could make sure that, everything's okay. If you don't make a safe space, it's not going to help. So
Right.
how do I make the safe space so that I'm curious enough to receive whatever is said, yet true enough to myself that I grow through it instead of letting it hold me back? So I really like the way you said that. I just want to make sure that when you ask, you're ready for it.
Absolutely. And you don't have to, in that moment, if it's not somebody that you want to open up to or that you would expect to open up to you, you can say, something seems off. I just want to make sure that this is a good time for us to connect. And you don't necessarily have to ask that, are you okay? Or is there something going on that we need to work out between us? But a trick you can use if and when, and especially if you know you have defensive tendencies, which I sometimes do, um, is to
I think
say,
we all do.
yeah, is to say, hey, I feel like there's something going on. Can we talk about it? And I will commit to listening only and then take some time before I come back to you with how I feel about it so that I don't come across defensive or not listening. I'm just going to listen today and process what you said. And then maybe we can follow up tomorrow, especially if it's something that's been like really eating at you or you feel like you're both just been building this mountain of, the elephant in the room kind of situation. So that's something that really takes some self-discipline. But if you say it at the front end, they'll appreciate that you're opening that door for them and you're committing. So you follow through on your commitment to say, thank you for sharing that. I'm in the process and I will come back to you tomorrow. And then it's almost easier because you don't have to come back with, well, I thought this or I said this, and then have to be so careful with your wording or whatever. You can really take that moment to have a mature conversation.
I like it. And yeah, you don't have to solve everything right now. But if you don't stay curious, you won't.
Sure.
If you don't ask the questions, if you don't, and you never have to ask anybody else if you're not curious about how to fix that, but you do have to ask yourself, be curious. What is it that triggered me? How can I make this better? And you may not get the right answer until you ask. But I know that that is sometimes a very difficult thing for people to do. Um, sometimes we just have grown up getting shot down and you're afraid. Like, how many times has somebody been, darn well that they're angry and they like, I'm fine. What can you do about it? And, that Dexter movie, I don't know if you've seen it. I like the part where she always says, well, tell your face that. Well, tell your face that. Because that is it. We let off an energy. And even though you think you're hiding it, there's an energy behind it. And some people are going to feel it. Others may not. Um, I look at it as, here I am. I'm a boiling pot of water, and an ice cube comes to me, and it drops in. I don't change. I keep boiling, but that ice cube's gone in a moment. Or vice versa. If I'm a pot of ice and a handful of boiling water gets thrown over me, some of my ice cubes are going to get smaller. They're going to change. And then when you talk about the energies of people in rooms, eventually you all become the same temperature, right? Or you go in with a nice flask covering so you keep your temperature. But at the same time, people's energies affect you. And you might have walked in the room with great positive energy and something happened. And then, it could be 20 minutes later, you got pissed off. And it's like, sometimes you have to back it up. When did it start to change? Because usually when you blow up, or usually when you have that final trigger and not the first thought, there's something that started you down that road ahead of time. And so I used to talk with my kids, let's back that up. When is it that you started to be angry? How can we avoid that in the future? Let's, back up to where I had control still.
Yes.
Because eventually we lose control. We blow up, we get angry. That happens. Thank goodness that we have tools to change us around. And my favorite tool is breath work, just that breathing, just because it takes my mind off the thought into my breath. And it could be a doodle, it could be all sorts of things. It's what takes your mind off that and focuses you to something else. So what do you do?
I love the breath work because I definitely do that in moments. And when possible, I love to, and I haven't always been great about this practice, but the opportunity to say, whew, something is going on. I need to stand up. Like you got to change that energy going through your own system. I need to stand up. I'm fortunate that as a leader, I can say comfortably, like, hey, something's weird in this energy in the room. Can we take a quick break? Like, let's all stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down, like shake our arms, whatever we need to do to just, I would love if anybody on my team did that too. It doesn't have to be the leader in the room. I think anybody that is perceiving like, hey, I think we all are like getting a little tired. Like this meeting's been going too long, or hey, there's a little bit of angst going on. Let's get it out, punch the air, fake punching bag, whatever we got to do. Okay. Now can we talk through it again? But like you said, breath work is such a great, easy way to do that without big movements when you're in a situation that doesn't allow that. Say you're on an airplane or something.
And in that moment, you're only helping yourself. But what you just talked about is helping the whole group just hit that reset button. I know one guy that I've worked with quite a bit will say, 5, take 5. We'll all be back. Because sometimes you just need to experience your body again. You sit in these meetings and you're so much in your brain that your body kind of tunes out and it takes the whole thing.
Yeah. And if you have that 5 minutes, it's so normal to sit there and bitch and moan in your head and let it all kind of spiral. But if you can adjust your mindset to say, what was going on there? What is it that was bothering me? Like you said, where can I think back to how did that conversation go sideways? It was at that one moment, and then you can reframe how you're thinking about things or just have that curious growth mindset to say, I'm willing to try this again. I think we got off track here. Can we maybe revisit that and figure out how we got so off track? Because we must have just missed each other in our communication. And, you're talking about A, I'm talking about B, and we both wanted to be talking about C. So
Or we are, it's like that 6 or 9. You're arguing it's a 6 because you're looking at it that direction. I'm arguing it's a 9 because I'm looking at it. It's the same thing. We are looking at the same thing, just have a different perspective.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's all it is. It's not even that I have to go to a whole new C. Yes, lots of times it is a whole new one, but it's comes right back to that curiosity. What is it that we are saying where we're not gelling? What is it that's going on where we're not understanding? As you can stop back and quiz yourself that way, then you're allowing yourself to grow. But if you're just like, I'm just going to be pissed off forever and I'm just going to shut down and do nothing, we kind of become stale and stagnant. So keep moving forward.
venting feels good in that moment, but when you look back on it, you say, how did that help me resolve that issue? How did I grow from it? How did the team or situation grow from it? It didn't. At the end of the day, it's just venting. So sometimes we need that, right? We got to blow off that steam. Maybe you have your confidant at home or somebody else where you can still blow off that steam later of how frustrating it was. But keeping in mind that I want to get better. You have to have that just fundamental inner desire. I like where I'm at, but I think I could be somewhere even better. I don't like where I'm at. So how can I get to that better place and be open in that mindset? That's where the growth mindset comes to say, how can I grow from this?
Right. And curious is, why is it better? What is it that makes it feel better? Or I think it would be better. Because if we don't know what it is, we just want something different, then you can't create it. But if you sit back and go, what is it that I think I could have better? Less hours at work, less arguments at home. What is it? And then how do we focus on that? But until you know what the better is, it's kind of hard to change it. If it's just a bigger house, what good is that if you're still going to be arguing and not happy? It's like, okay, we'll get room to get apart from each other. But what is it? What is that thing that's going to make it better? And I like how you said, let's make it better. But what is it? How,
Yeah.
not but, and what is it?
And what is it? And you may not know. It may take some time to figure that out. I was just actually kind of revisiting, what are my goals? What do I want? And I was really stuck on all the what I don't want. So I wrote down all the what I don't want. And then I said, okay, so for every don't want, there's going to be the flip side of it. And that helped me start identifying what I wanted. But it is a hard activity, and nobody's perfect. Believe me, I'm constantly working on it. But I enjoy that journey of feeling like I improved today. I learned something today. I, made a difference in someone else's life today because I helped them discover something.
And what a great way to look at it. When that's adding value, whether the other person feels like you're adding value or not, doesn't matter. It's how I feel. It does matter to them, but this is your book. You are the star. You are the person who matters in this book. The rest are all extras. They might be supporting actors, they might be whatever, but you are the one that counts in your book. You are the hero,
Yes.
Make it happen. And you do that through allowing yourself to grow. And how do you grow? By asking the questions. So I love it. This is your topic. I love it. I just think I've had a lot of fun with this. So let's talk about, is it always appropriate? Is there ever a time where I shouldn't be curious?
Well, sure. Maybe, situation dependent. There, you don't want to know the answer.
I was going to say, it only matters you. You be curious about you. You can,
Yeah.
you can't control anybody else. You can't make them tell you anything. You can ask, but you may not get an answer.
Or you may not like the answer, and you
Yeah.
have to be thoughtful of that. If I get an answer that's my worst fear, would I rather know or not know? And what am I going to do with this information? And like you said, you're the hero of your own book. You're it's your own story. Um, if it's not going to take you on a journey that um, it's not always going to be in a positive direction too. I'm trying to be careful what I'm saying because sometimes we have to push through. Through is the only way out. So sometimes you're not going to like the answer, but you should still investigate and still work through it. So, kind of talking out both sides there. But, if it's relationship or something with somebody that's not a critical relationship in your life, maybe just don't ask because they may just be the a-hole that you're worried that they are or whatever the thing is that's bothering you, right?
Yeah, if there's not anything directly impacting you, choose if you want the answer or not. But I just reminds me back to when a boss and I just hated working for her. And it seems like she would ask me to do something I'd already done, and I would get so frustrated because, like, why are you telling us to do this? But one day I sat down with her and I just says, this is not working for me. Our relationship and our ability to communicate and work together is kind of straining to me. And getting it off my chest and communicating it with her opened the door for honest communication going forward. I had no problem working with her after that. So sometimes it's being vulnerable enough to allow yourself to share those deep, dark things that you've been thinking with the person and then seeing how it's not always going to fix. Sometimes you grow apart. There's divorces and like crazy out there because two people fell in love and then grew apart. You're lucky if you are in a relationship where you're growing at the same speed together because none of us are who we were 10 years ago. None of us are who we were 5 years ago. So if things fall apart, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just you chose different paths. And so it's allowing yourself to ask the questions, is this somebody I want to risk my vulnerability with?
Yeah, that's a great way to frame it.
And allow it to be there. Is it important enough to me? There's some coworkers I don't need to tell them that because I don't need to work with them. I would call them coworkers, but I should call them colleagues. But, there's all sorts of different ways to approach this. And I think the way you've stated it, just, all open to share and open to receive in a safe environment, I think is wonderful.
And I love what you said about the vulnerability because it's a two-way street. You're showing them that, hey, I'm willing to be vulnerable here, and hopefully getting some reciprocating vulnerability for them to share with you what was on their mind or why something or whatever. And I think that's going back to our topic of growth mindset. It's also being curious enough internally and that self-awareness enough to say, is this somebody that I feel compelled to go have that vulnerability with? And so much of this is not conscious per se, but it's getting yourself in that state and in that mindset so that when these situations arise, you can just go engage in that and say, I'm strong enough. I know that I'm a great person no matter what response they tell me, and I'm going to be vulnerable and say what is on my mind, and I can take it because I deserved to do that for myself, regardless of what they dish back at me.
And we need to be conscious of our vulnerability. There are some narcissists out there that are going to take advantage of that and smash you down over and over again. And so be cautious,
Yes.
but open. And if it is that person that is not going to honor that vulnerability and allow you to have some ups and downs, find another way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely tiptoe into it, figure out, is this someone who's going to use this against me, or is this someone who really has my best interest in mind? And if you do run into those narcissistic personalities, I certainly have, boundaries are so important. And they come flying across them before you even realized that you needed to have your shields up. So then it's establishing boundaries where there were none and trying to retrofit that can be incredibly challenging. That's a whole nother podcast topic. Um, but yes, agree with what you said there. It needs to be proceed with caution, use your discretion.
Yeah, there are some people in my careers that I never was vulnerable with because I wasn't safe. Like, this is not going to work. It's not going to help. It's not going to solve a thing. But if you have that person that it's just a misunderstanding. They're a good person. We're just not clicking.
Yeah.
That's a total different option.
Yes. Yes. And a good one worth pursuing because
Mhm.
like your experience, it totally changed your dynamic and it made it pleasant where it wasn't before.
And funny thing is it was months later we had a reorg and I wasn't reporting to her anymore, but we went through the practice and it gave me the strength to use that approach again
Yes.
because it made a difference. Where had I not experienced that, I might not have been able to have as great of working relationships with other people. So that's part of that growth thing. Sometimes that step you take in the, is this going to be right, is what's going to help you grow.
Yes. Absolutely.
Kristin, this has been fun. I really have enjoyed our conversation. I would love for you to share with our friend a little bit about you, what you do, how to get a hold of you, and then what's that one thing she can do right now?
I am an executive leader in software. I spent the last 8 years as a founder and startup life doing software for alcoholic beverage companies, and that was a really fun ride. And I'm now looking for my next opportunity while I'm still an owner and partially involved in the prior. And what's one thing our friend can do today? Um, I think that so much of that kind of depends on what where you're at in your life and what you want to go do. But um, to stay on topic, I would challenge our friend to take 5 minutes at the end of the day today and say, is there something that happened today that I did like and I can be curious about it and say, how can I go repeat that so that I'm getting out of this spiral or, the frustration, the hard day, whatever. What's that one moment that was the shining light in my day? Or if it was mostly a good day and one bad thing happened, go evaluate the bad thing and say, what was the one thing that, how did I get there? And have that curiosity and then say, is there something I can take away from that to apply to tomorrow?
I love that you brought up the good thing because so many times we focus so much on the negative that we forget that we can recreate the good things.
Yeah.
And so analyzing it, how come today was so amazing? What happened? What did I eat? Who was I around? What happened? And write them down and figure out what is that common denominator after you've done it a few times. It's like, oh, seems like when Fred comes and visits, I always have a great day, or when I have that power breakfast, I usually go without breakfast, but for some reason I'm in a better mood. What is it? And you can only do that by analyzing, writing it down. So, what a great way to recreate the goodness in our lives instead of just trying to avoid the bad. So, thank you so much. I
Yeah, you're
think,
supposed to spend 2 minutes brushing your teeth every time you brush your teeth, right? So take those 2 minutes to have that introspection.
yeah, you don't even have to find a separate time unless you want to write it down. It's kind of hard to do those
But
two at
I
the same
I know
time.
we're all busy and we're trying to fit it in. So trying to find ways to squeeze it into what you're already doing if you don't
I,
have that
yeah,
time.
I talk about a lot, like in the shower. You're going to be there probably 10 minutes, most people. What can you think through? Or I used to use it as my stress reducer, like water comes on and stress goes out,
Yeah.
just let it wash out. Pretend like it's going through your body. So, what can you use your normal daily routines to make you feel better? So, let's do it while we brush our teeth.
And it's such a great practice to be grateful before you go to bed because it's proven that you sleep better when you do.
Aw, I do that, but I didn't know it was proven.
I read a study somewhere. I probably couldn't find it right here if I needed to.
It was on the internet. It's got to be
Google
true.
hard enough? Yes.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Friend Kristin and I are not medical or mental licensed professionals. We're not here for medical advice, just people that have found a path that works for us and want to share it with you, hoping to make your path a little bit smoother. So thank you for joining and stay tuned for the next episode.
Are you tired of waking up exhausted? You are not alone. If you're looking to take your life back, let's start with the simple step of adjusting your self-talk. Stay tuned for the next episode with your host, Lara Jane. Remember to follow the show so you don't miss the next simple step that you can use to feel more confident. And please leave an honest review.